This is Freckled Han, and you're listening to Rant. Hello. Can you believe it? Another episode in another week. It's like I'm an actual podcaster. Okay, to be perfectly honest, I've actually been thinking a lot about the podcast because I listen to a lot of podcasts and I kind of go on, spurts or whatever, where I'll listen to a ton of podcasts and then I'll kind of take a break from podcasts and I'll go to audiobooks and then I'll kind of bounce back to podcasts. But I'm basically always listening to something. Remember, my unofficial sponsor of the Bose Ultra Open Ear headphones. Anyways, a few of the podcasts that I listen to regularly were on a break for the summer or they were just doing like paid only content, which I do not currently subscribe to. And now they're back. And as I've been listening to their episodes since they've been coming back, I've just been reminded of the community that you get from podcasting. It is unlike an Instagram community. It is unlike anything else because the level of connection that I feel with podcasters is so much deeper than people I follow on Instagram but don't have a podcast. And so it's hard because I know that I've talked about this on Instagram a little bit, but I really am trying to make this thing that I'm doing less of a passion project and more of a business. And the reality is the podcast is not at all something like the road to making money through podcasting is a very long, far road. I don't think far road makes sense, but you know what I'm saying. That potential, it's there for sure, but it's very, very in the distant future. And yet I want to make it more of a priority, continuing the podcast, being here on the podcast, because I love the podcast and I love the people who listen to the podcast. I mean, I love everyone. I love everyone who supports me in every way, shape, and form, truly. But there's just something special about podcasts and just seeing the communities that other podcasters have built through their podcasts is something that I am very aware of and very mindful of. And I'm just like thinking, and maybe this makes me sound really full of myself, but I feel like the difference between me and those podcasters that I see that have those really, really strong communities, the main difference is consistency, because that is something that they are doing that I am not doing. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, if all I have to do is be more consistent to be able to have the type of community that these people have, I want to try. I want to give it my all. So hence the podcast, and hence why I'm going to try to expand my audience a little bit with the podcast by occasionally bringing on guests. I'm going to test out, I have an idea for a format that would be kind of more like bringing people on as a co-host rather than a guest. And we're just going to test it. We're going to try it. We're going to have a fun time. I'm not going to give up the solo podcast though, because I like the solo podcast. I'm not sure what that says about me, that I'm someone who can listen to myself talk regularly to myself for 45 minutes at a time. But whatever the reason, I love it. And I love hearing from you guys when you reach out about the podcast and tell me that you listen to the podcast. So please, if you're here, let me know. Also, if you're here and you can think of a friend who could use just a ranty, fun, chatty podcast, send them my way. I know people say that leaving reviews is another helpful way for people to find the podcast. Truthfully, I don't know. I mean, that makes sense because people, the algorithm or whatever, is going to show more people the podcast, the more reviews it has. This is my question. Are people really out there scrolling the podcast app looking for new podcasts? I don't know. I've never done that, but maybe they are. I say I've never done that, but actually I did come across a podcast the other day because, like I said, most of my favorite podcasters were on a break for the summer and I was going to be in the car for a while. So I was like, I just want to listen to a podcast. I had a bunch of books on hold on Libby, but none of them were available yet. So I went to the top podcasts and there was one that came up called The Unicorn Girl or something. And it was about this con artist from Salt Lake City. We love a Utah con. We love that. Anyway, it was pretty interesting. I listened to the first few episodes and then I got bored, but I guess I did. So never say never, because I did actually scroll on the podcast app to find something to listen to, and I listened to it. What do you know? Okay, I need to pull up my notes because I don't remember what I was going to talk about. Oh my gosh, okay, I'm remembering already. Whew. This is a little bit delayed because these are the things I was going to talk about last week when I instead dedicated not just one episode, but 2 episodes to the show, The Summer I Turned Pretty. I will obviously say a few things about that just really quickly. The finale came out last night. I have not watched it. I don't know. I probably will watch it. I'm kind of undecided right now, so we'll see. But either way, I saw a piece of content that was somebody like, the finale got leaked, and it was just this girl like acting it out. It was hilarious. I'll link to it in the show notes. But then one of the comments said something about this summer I got rage baited for 23 straight episodes or something like that, and I laughed so hard because I agreed. But no, we're going to go back to last Friday, which was Steven's Ironman race. It wasn't an officially sanctioned event, Ironman, the brand, but it was a swim, bike, run, about the equivalent length of what would be considered a half Ironman, but it was this off-brand called the Brine Man because it was here in Salt Lake. So at the beginning of the year, he like made a vision board. We actually did it together, but then he actually printed his out and put it up, and I never did. So he wins for that. And honestly, it's been awesome to see him just checking things off all throughout the year. He's doing awesome with his goals. One of them he did not do, but actually the rest, and it's kind of too late. But I think he's on track to reach almost the rest of them, which is incredible. I'm so impressed. Anyway, one of the things that he had on his vision board was to do a race with friends. And so he looked into different events that he could do. And this is the one that he settled on. He had a few friends come in from out of state and a few friends here locally. They all signed up for this race together. And Steven has done a race before. He did like a Spartan race where you run, but it's like more like a hike run because you're going up the side of a mountain. And then they have obstacles along the way. He did that last year, but this year he wanted to do this swim, bike, run. Why are those words so hard for me to remember? And he's never ridden a road bike before, and he's never He's never swum. Nope. I genuinely don't know what the proper grammar is. But that thing that you compete in the water doing, he's never done that. So it was actually a really big stretch for him to be able to do this. And it was really impressive to see him just keep grinding and figuring it out and getting tips and all that kind of stuff, reaching out to people for help or guidance. Anyway, he did it. And he said it was so hard and he would never do it again. And then literally like 2 weeks later, he was like, oh yeah, one of my other friends said he's going to do the full one in Sacramento. And he said to his friend that he would join, except my parents live there. They live outside of Sacramento, but they actually just moved to Canada for a year and a half. They're on a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Toronto, Canada. Anyway, so Stephen had told his friend, like, oh yeah, I would do it too, but my in-laws just moved and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, really? You would do it? Because you just told me that you would never do this again. And that was half the distance of this other race. And he said he's a sucker for peer pressure when it comes to those types of things. And it's true, which good for him, because I am not. I am a sucker for peer pressure when it comes to watching really stupid shows, sitting stagnant in my bed, but not to go out and run, I don't know, a ridiculous amount of miles. I actually don't know how much it was. I forgot. I posted it on Instagram and then he messaged me and was like, yeah, no, you were totally wrong. You said all the wrong numbers. So, you know. Okay, but no, the point of bringing up this race, there is a point. my point with bringing all this up is that it was really important to him to have me and the kids come at the end to cheer him on at the end of the race, which I was like happy to do. He'd worked really hard on this and I wanted to be there to support him. It was just like an hour away, not a big deal. So I got the kids. I tried to check them out of school, but by the time 4 of the kids got to the office, it really like didn't make that much of a difference because it was kind of a nightmare. I'm not going to lie, but it's fine. We got there. We had plenty of time to sit. We made little posters for him while we were waiting, and he finished and it was great. But then it was interesting because I talk often about how I have an aversion to the mental and physical load. And this was like the perfect illustration of that because I did go ahead of time and I knew we were going to go. And then the day of, I was like, oh, that'd be fun if we had posters. So I went to the store, I got poster stuff. And then while I was there, I thought like, oh, it actually would be so fun if we made shirts. But at this point, we needed to leave in like 2 hours. So that wasn't really a reasonable thing. So then I saw these like this sticker paper. So then I made stickers, just like little tiny, well, just like regular circle size stickers. So I designed these little stickers in Canva really quick and I printed them out and that was fun, but they were little. Anyway, on the way home, I was like, oh man, I wish I had thought ahead because if I had thought ahead, I could have had like really cool posters. Cause the stickers I designed were kind of cute. It was like Go Dad Go, but I took the picture from Go Dad Go and I put Steven's face on it. And then the other one was my dad is a brine man. And I took the brine man logo and I put his face on it. You just like silly things like that. But they were so tiny. And on the way home, I was like, dang it. I totally could have, if I had thought ahead, I could have had these big, huge posters with his face on it and it would have been so funny and he could have seen it and blah, blah, you know. And then I was like, and if I had thought ahead, like I could have had a jug of milk, like his huge mug, like beer stein, whatever, of milk for him at the end because like, hello, Steven, milk, like they're literally synonymous. And then I was like, oh my gosh, and I just started thinking about all of these things I could have done if I had thought ahead. And not that I started feeling like bad about myself, but I was just kind of bummed, like, dang it, why didn't I think of that? Like, why am I thinking of all these ideas now? And then I was like, Hannah, stop. Like, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that would have been fun, but also you win. You checked out 4 kids from school. And anyway, I think it's interesting because especially when I post about type B stuff, which I know people are kind of like over the types. I get it. It's interesting how so many people will say things like, oh yeah, I wish I was more type A. Like, I wish I was this. I wish I was that. And I think the reason why my life is easy is because I just accept who I am. Like, I don't expect things for myself that I'm not already doing. However, I know that if I felt really strongly, I could change myself. Like, I could change those aspects of myself, but also I'm okay to not. Does that make sense? Okay, so that happens Friday. The next day, Saturday, Steven stayed. I mentioned this is kind of a building story. So I'm not like totally dropping that concept. We're building on it. The next day, Saturday, Steven had, like I mentioned, I literally just repeated myself almost verbatim. Like I mentioned, he had a few friends flying from out of state. So they all got an Airbnb together over by where the race was, which was actually perfect because then they got together the night before. They all went to bed at a good time. But then they finished the race. They went back to the Airbnb. They went to dinner. They slept at the Airbnb. And then they were able to just kind of like hang out at the Airbnb the next day, which I don't know if anybody else is in this situation ever, but 10 out of 10 recommend because after the race, he obviously didn't want to be helping with like the kids. He was so sunburned, first of all, but also so sore, so tired, whatever. So not even having him home, like not even having him there as an option for the kids to ask things from, but also for me to like be lazy was perfect. I would absolutely recommend that situation 100% of the time. Anyway, he stayed there. So the next morning was soccer games. And so I got all the kids ready. We have 5 kids playing soccer right now on 4 different teams. So 2 of the kids are on the same team and then 3 other teams. And I had ChatGPT put together a schedule for like a master schedule, because almost all of the games, all the games are on Saturday mornings at either 9 or 10:30, but every week it's a little bit different. Anyway, I have this master schedule, but somehow I misread the schedule. And so I get all my kids there to the games to find out that 2 of them, their game was actually at 9. So I thought that, I'm not explaining this very well. I thought that one of my kids had a game at 9 and that the other 4, their game was at 10:30. So we get there at 9. The one that has that game plays that game. And then right before 10:30, like probably 10:15-ish, I find out that the 2 that are on the same team, their game was also at 9. We were literally there at the field, and I just didn't know that they had their game. Like, I completely botched it. So I felt really bad. They're obviously crying because they were really sad. And my parents were actually there because they hadn't quite left for Canada yet. So they were there to watch them play their game. And so they were crying, and I was just like, okay, that sucks. Like, I feel bad. I'm sorry. But we're going to figure this out. So, I mean, the reality is the real reason why they care about these games is the snacks after. They don't hide that fact. So I was like, I'm so sorry, you guys. Totally my fault. How about we go to the gas station after and I get you snacks? And they're like, okay, fine. Totally fine. Stop crying. They're good. Then my mom actually, because I was getting the other 2 kids that had games, I was getting them situated. And my mom was able to find another team, which we had discussed this, because I thought too, I was like, if we can find another team that doesn't have as many players, like, this is a recreational city league soccer. Nobody's taking this seriously. I couldn't even identify more than 3 kids on their team. So it's not like they've never had a practice. It's not like these teams matter at all. They are randomly assigned by the city. So my mom and I talked about, like, well, if we could find another team with low players, like, maybe we could just ask for them to play on that team, which ended up working out. It was totally fine. They got to play. It was not their team, but they still got to play, and they got snacks. So I didn't even have to take them to the gas station. Win, win, win. But then, so this is illustrating me botching the mental load. Okay. I botched it on Friday because I did not think of things to do for Steven to, like, have for him at the ending line that I'm sure other people would have thought of, but I didn't. Then I botched it because I thought that it was at one time. It wasn't, totally on me. Then this was the worst one. One of my kids had been invited to a birthday party, and the birthday party went from 12 to 2, but for some reason I had put it in my calendar as starting at 2. Like, I put it in my calendar as from 2 to 4. And it was one of the same kids that I had messed up the soccer time, and it was like 1:45, and I was telling him, okay, it's almost time to go to the birthday party. Like, let's get you ready to go. When I look at the invitation and I realize, oh my gosh, the birthday party's ending in 15 minutes. It's not starting in 15 minutes. It's ending in 15 minutes. And I kind of lost it. I just, like, started crying because I felt so bad that not once, but twice for that same child, I had totally dropped the ball. And he was obviously crying. I was crying. I felt so bad. I had obviously RSVP'd for the party. The mom had even texted me the day of, reminding about the party. So I verified that I had it on my calendar, and I did. So I just start crying, and he's crying, and I'm just holding him, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry. This is totally my fault. But this is what I will say. And this is where I feel like maybe I deviate from the norm. Because in no way was me missing the soccer game or me missing the birthday party do I equate those with who I am as a mom? Because yes, I felt really bad and I apologized and I did not love that I found myself in that situation, but it did not feel like a reflection of me as a mom at all. And I think that's where a lot of women, their default is like, oh, I'm such a bad mom. I think, I don't know, because I don't think that way, but I think that's how a lot of people think. And for me, I mean, the thoughts I was thinking was like, I am so bad at managing the mental load. I'm so bad at remembering things. I'm so bad. Like, I was definitely frustrated with myself, but in no way was I frustrated with myself, quote unquote, as a mom. And so I don't know if that's helpful. I don't really know what that says about me. I don't really know, but I just am sharing that because even like when I texted to apologize about the party, someone was like, oh, I get it, like mom brain. And it's just like, no, actually, no. This is just my brain. This is just how my brain works. It is not good at mental load stuff. And it has absolutely nothing to do with my kids. And like, I don't know, I guess people could argue like, oh, but that is motherhood because it's affecting the relationship that you have with your child. But is it though? Because like, I was with my child and I was hugging him and I was apologizing and like, is he going to see me as maybe less reliable for times of things in the future? Yeah, maybe. So what do I do? Like, where do we go from here? I told my kids, okay, we're going to print out all of your soccer schedules and post them here in the kitchen so that you guys can know when your soccer games are so that you're not expecting me to know and then have me be wrong and then have you be sad. So like, here you go. Here's your soccer schedule. You are now able to take ownership of that. And that way you don't have to be relying on me. Same with birthday parties. Because that's one thing too, is like, I usually don't tell my kids about when they have a birthday party coming up because then they're just like so excited and they're just like talking about it all the time. And I just think it's kind of annoying. So, but this was a learning experience of like, no, I need to tell them and I need to tell them the time and I'm going to put it on this family calendar or I'll show them the invitation and then they can put it on the family calendar. That way, if the time is wrong, it's not on me. It's on them because then I can just be there to support and, you know, offer guidance and stuff. And obviously I'll still verify and like, I want to support them as best I can, but like, I don't have to take these things as a reflection of me and how good of a job I'm doing as a mom. Because like, if I were a bad mom, I wouldn't care. If I was a bad mom, I'd be like, sucks for you. Like, you know, like I wouldn't be there consoling and apologizing to my child that I had the birthday party time wrong. Right? That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Okay. Pretzo jalad. That's my other note that I have here. So I've mentioned this a few times too, but we are having everybody pick a day where they're in charge of what we make for dinner. It's not seamless, but it's taking a huge mental load off for me because I just asked the kids. And I thought at the beginning, I was like, oh, I can have them do it for the whole month where they just like pick their 4 meals. That was a little too much for them, understandably so. So now we're just doing it where on Sunday of every week, before I put in our Walmart, Steve and I put in the Walmart order, I just say, hey, what do you want to have for your dinner this week? And they each tell me what they want. And they think of a protein, a carb, a fat, a fiber, and a fun. Those are like the 5 categories. And sometimes there's like a little bit of overlap, but that's the idea, which they're always most excited about the fun. So we've been having dessert more than we have in the past. We'll just put it that way. I'm trying to like push them towards Ninja Creamies. So because I'm a big fan of Ninja Creamies and then I can like put cottage cheese and like protein and like make it a little bit more balanced. But no, they're very specific about the desserts that they want, which is great. Anyway, so Lydia had a very specific, she always is very specific about the things that she wants, which again, I love that. And I see the power of specificity, especially with like, I mean, I'm in a lot of personal development, like business coaching world things. And something they talk about a lot is being really specific about what you want, because if you want like God or the universe or whatever to be able to give you what you want, then you have to be really clear on what it is you want, right? And I saw that with my very specific goal of wanting 10,000 followers on Instagram, and like the universe conspired with me, God, whatever, to be able to get that. So I'm always impressed by Lydia's specificity. And this side note, but it's like the same with her Christmas presents. Like one year, she was so specific. She had a list of exactly what she wanted, and she got almost everything. Whereas the boys were like really vague about what they wanted. And so they didn't get what they wanted because they didn't know. And so I didn't know how to get it to them. And anyway, I think there's a lot of power there. Back to something way less deep than that, which was just Lydia's dinner. And I can't remember all the things that she had with it. But one of the things that she wanted was pretzel jello salad, which our family affectionately named pretzo jalad. In case you don't know what it is, it's probably a Utah thing / it's actually there. It's very ambiguous where this dish originated. It is in no way a salad. It is pretzels with butter and sugar. You bake that. That's the bottom crust. Then you get Cool Whip and cream cheese and whip that up together. That is your middle layer. And then the top is either strawberry or raspberry jello, usually with like the fruit in it. Very weird combination of foods. But it is a family favorite. Personally, I'm kind of so about it, but all my kids love it. Anyway, I've made it for Thanksgiving the last few years, and it's a lot of pressure because if you don't get the middle layer of the whipped cream and the cream cheese perfectly sealed off, then when you pour the top layer on top, then like the jello layer, then the jello will bleed through and it will get underneath the whipped cream layer and it will get to the pretzel layer and it will get really mushy. Well, so Lydia had never made it before, but she wanted it as part of her dinner. And so we talked it through. We made it the night before. We did it all the night before so it would be ready for dinner. And I forgot to buy Cool Whip from the store / I thought it would taste better if we just made Cool Whip from whipping cream, made our own version of it. But I didn't really know how much we would need. And so I just thought it'd be fine if we just made like a cup of whipped cream and then mixed it with the cream cheese, whatever. Long story short, the middle layer was not thick enough, but I was confident that it would be fine. And so Lydia was so worried and she was trying to because I had told her, like, we got to be really careful because if it's not fully sealed off, then the top layer will go to the bottom layer and it will ruin it and blah, blah, blah. So she was in a panic about it. And I was like, it's fine. She pours the jello on. Not fine. Completely goes into the bottom layer. And she's like, oh my gosh, Mom, like it's totally not working. I'm like, oh, it will be fine. Like, I told her that it would taste totally fine. It wouldn't matter. I truly believed that at the time. I wasn't outrightly lying. I actually thought that would be true, that it would be fine. Anyway, I said it's not as pretty, but it's okay. We're not taking it to guests. We're not taking it anywhere. We're just going to eat it our family. So it will be fine. So the next day for dinner, she is so excited. She is so proud of this pretzel jalad. It was disgusting. Like the pretzels were so soggy. Oh my gosh. I don't like pretzel jalad normally, but the kids tried it first and I was like, how is it? And they're like, it's good, which thankfully it's been a while since they had the actual version. So I guess she said she couldn't really remember what it normally tastes like, but that she said it was good, which I was so relieved. So I took a bite. Steven and I both literally tried not to spit it out because it was so bad. The mushy, oh my gosh, there's maybe a few things worse than like soft, soggy, mushy, jello soaked pretzels. Yeah, it was so bad. But I'm so grateful that she still thought it was good and they finished it. They ate it all. I'm not sure how because it was rough, but they did it. So hooray. Hooray for kids being willing to eat things that I would never eat. But I guess when it has enough like sugar and butter and stuff, it's fine. Well, unfortunately, that was everything left on my notes. So from here on out, it's really just going to be a true rambly rant with no purpose. Usually I try to keep a note on my phone that I will add to throughout the week when I know I'm about to podcast. But this podcast just kind of came spur of the moment because I did podcast twice last week. I didn't really advertise it, but I actually recorded. So I recorded my one episode where I was just me ranting about the summer I turned pretty. And then I recorded another episode of me ranting about the summer I turned pretty with a guest, my friend Mary from I Just Want to Chat, because she was the one that actually introduced me to the show. And I had beef. Just kidding. No. So there is that episode as well. If you missed it, you can go back. And I am putting the episodes on YouTube now, which is kind of terrifying, but not that terrifying because the last two that I posted have literally 0 views. So as long as people don't watch them, it's really not a big deal. Just continue to not watch them. Just kidding. I really do want to try to build up the podcast. So I have lots of ideas of things to do for that, but I am also open to ideas. I'm just in like a huge idea phase for everything because truly thinking back to like, or referring back to what I was just talking about with the specificity thing, I believe in the principle of specificity. That's not a thing. I just made it up. But truly like having a really clear picture of what I want, I think is really important. And so I have to figure out what that is, which is both fun and really overwhelming or just intimidating, I guess. It's a lot easier to decide what I don't want. It's a lot harder to be clear on what I actually do want, which knowing what I don't want is helpful. I mean, that it does at least point me more in the direction or turn me away from the direction that I don't want to go, which I appreciate. But I have lots to figure out. I feel like I've been particularly tired this last week. I was on my period last week, so that's kind of how I explained it away. But I do think that there's also just a general heaviness around with events both on the world scale, on the US scale, and specifically on the Utah scale of really heavy things. And I can't help but think that that is truly just like an energy that is permeating the world. We've never had to really talk to our kids about heavy events like that, like the one that occurred in Utah last week. But because we live close enough to where it happened, I thought that there would be chatter about it on the playground. I figured I'd rather have them know that we know about it and like have discussed it a little bit. Obviously, we didn't go into great detail, but we did have to talk about it, or not have to, but we did choose to talk about it with them a little bit. And then having that coincide with September 11th was a lot. Like we kind of talked about, this is what happened a long time ago to our country. Like this is a big part of our country's history. And also this is something that happened yesterday here in Utah. And it's not fun. It's not a fun conversation to have. And obviously our kids are little, so we were able to keep it very, very basic. But it is one of those things where you feel like it could never happen close to home until it does happen close to home. And it's hard. I did mention this at the end of my last episode, so this is maybe a little bit redundant if you listen to that one, but I am just going to say it again, how I think it's interesting. I have this theory. It's still kind of a working theory, but I have this theory that because we have access to the world through the internet and social media now, it's a lot easier to dismiss and disassociate literally and figuratively with people who view things differently than we do, because our access to people who think the same as us is so much greater and easier to access than it was in previous generations. And I think while there can be benefits from that, of having a community of like-minded people, regardless of whether or not you live near them. It's also a huge disservice because we feel like we don't have to associate with people who don't agree or align with the way that we think about something. And I think it's kind of a lost art of being able to maintain friendships and connections with people who we aren't 100% aligned with. I'm a big fan of Faith Matters. That's an organization. I believe they're a nonprofit. I'm not 100% sure, but they're just an organization that makes a lot of content around faith, but specifically around the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and how can we continue to have faith even when we maybe don't align 100% with an organization. And one thing, they had a guest on last year maybe, who he's not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but he was he gave a speech at Harvard, the graduation, I think. And then he went on to write a book. He called it now I'm totally blanking. Something about the counterculture of commitment. I believe that's what it was called. And how in our generation and in the world today, nobody wants to commit to anything because you always want to keep your options open. That's kind of related to what I was saying. Just this idea that if you're not aligned perfectly with something or someone, then you don't want to affiliate with yourself with that at all. And I think that adds to this divisive nature that we are experiencing. And I don't see that as a positive. At the same time, I can very much see that too, even just with the way that I interact with people or posts on social media. I feel like if I don't completely agree with everything this person says or has said or stands for, then if I follow that account or if I like that post, then I don't want to do that because I think people will then affiliate me with that person and they'll think, oh, well, Hannah liked this one post, so she must agree with everything this person says and blah, blah, blah. And they'll start thinking things about me. And it's crazy how much that truly does cross my mind when I'm scrolling social media. If I see something, I'm very hesitant to interact with a post because I don't want people to think that I stand for all the exact same thing that this person stands for, which is kind of bonkers because I don't think there are two people in the world that agree on every single thing. I don't think that's the point of it. I don't think that is, I don't know, the word healthy feels maybe dramatic, but it's healthy to have your own opinions and to not be aligned 100% of the time and to be confident in those opinions and to change your opinions because you learn new information. So, wow. Okay. I was not expecting this to get such a serious note, but here we are. That was not necessarily a tangent I was expecting, but it has been on my mind a lot because every time I notice myself feeling so tired and worn down, I can't help but wonder if that is why, and wonder how long I will continue to feel this way. Are there other factors at play? Maybe. I actually have had quite a journey since my last baby was born, trying to figure out hormonally. I don't feel like my hormones have quite gone back into the pattern that they were before. I don't know if that's just because I'm getting older or if there's something that I'm doing. I started using new shampoos and now I'm afraid that they are ruining my hormones because everything ruins your hormones, And I do think that there is some truth to that. I don't want to be so extreme, but also I do think that could potentially be a factor. And so I'm trying to figure all that out. Okay, I'd love to end this on a lighter note. All the things that are coming to mind are silly pop culture things that I really don't care that much about. But the one right now I'm thinking about is Dancing with the Stars. I didn't watch last night. Last night was the premiere. But I have to say that I think this season is going to be one of their most viewed seasons. They got really incredible talent on the show this year. Both talent as far as the people are good dancers, which that's kind of a side question I have, because is it really fair to have people who are trained in dancing, who have a background in dance, competing with people who are like NBA players? It doesn't really feel fair. I know I don't totally understand how the scoring works. And I think they try to account for that somehow. But anyway, the people that they have, the contestants, that's the right word. The contestants they have, I think, are going to draw huge numbers. Like I said, I didn't watch the episode, but I did go on and watch a few of the clips of the dances. And I was very impressed. Very, very impressed. It'll be a really interesting season. And I'll be really curious to see who ends up making it all the way. The last thing I'll say is I'll just kind of peel back the curtain a little bit about what my plans are right now for all the things I mentioned. I'm trying to focus on turning a passion project into a business. And I will say something that was so fun about this past summer, where I only had one focus, and that focus was to make as much content as I possibly could with this goal of trying to get to 10,000 followers. That was genuinely so fun for me because I had a plan, I had a vision, and I was doing the part that I love, which is just like making content. I love making content. And now I feel like I want to keep making content and nurture the people who came, because I had such a huge growth in such a short amount of time. And I want to make sure that those people like actually care about what I'm doing. And I want to try to figure out how to make money at the same time. So right now my plan is to launch an audio course. I'm still kind of figuring out all the exact details, but the idea is that there are a lot of moms, like the people who I feel like can benefit most from the message that I have of redefining motherhood, which what I mean by that is separating the job of caregiving from the relationship of motherhood, are moms with multiple small children who just feel so absorbed in the caregiving aspect and simultaneously believing that the caregiving aspect is the motherhood aspect. And so it's like, how do you take a break from being a mom, right? Like that's not a thing, which is true. You don't, because relationships exist whether or not you're with your kids. But taking breaks from caregiving, I think, is something that's really valuable and really helpful, and something I want people to be able to normalize and not feel like that makes them bad or like they don't love their kids or a bad mom or anything like that. So my thought is to be able to make an audio course specifically for those women. And I think an audio course is the best fit because I want it to be something pretty short. I'm thinking around an hour, 15-minute-ish tracks on 4 to 5 different topics. And they can listen to it in a day and re-listen to it as much as they need to, just to kind of help offer support without them needing to feel like they have another thing on their to-do list, right? How many courses have you purchased that you never actually finished because it just felt like too overwhelming? I don't want that. I don't want that this to become that. So I'm hoping by offering it as an audio course, a few people have also asked if I could provide a transcription, which I probably will do if people would prefer to read it. They can just listen as they're driving or doing dishes or doing whatever they're doing already. That is the plan. And I am going to put it on a pre-sale, which will probably be around, I don't know, $18 to $20. And then the final product will be around $30. So if you're interested in getting in on the pre-sale price, I am going to have a link in the show notes where you can sign up to be able to get access to that once the course is live. Hopefully within the next month or so is the goal. And then once I have that up and running, I think I will go back to the focus of finding more people who need the message. And that way they can so going back to like kind of like I did this summer of focusing on content and growth so that I can reach as many people as possible who just really need to hear the message and then kind of marinate with it over time. And then maybe at some point they would be interested in the audio course or something else that I have to offer later. I'm also very open to working with brands in a sponsored capacity. So I want to get more into that. But right now, my main focus is having something a little bit more substantial than just 30-second clips on Instagram for people to be able to learn more about what I'm all about and what my message is about and why I think it's so important for more women to hear it. And then, go back into the growth mode, because that's the part I really love. I love the community building. I love the content creation and just finding people who truly need the message, because with all that growth, I have gotten dozens and dozens of messages from women being like, wow, I seriously needed this. This is life-changing, just from that 1 2-minute clip that they saw. And that just warms my soul and my heart. And so I want to be able to put more energy and effort into seeking out those people who really need it. And they don't even need a lot more than that. They just need to hear it. So that's the plan. I'm excited. It's fun. It's funny that I thought once the older kids were in school, I would be able to have a lot more time to get stuff done. It's actually not been the case at all, because now the two youngest, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old at home, and now they don't have older siblings around that are doing stuff that they can just kind of like be along for the ride. Now they just want me to entertain them. And I'm not really interested in sitting around and entertaining them. So we're trying to figure out how to make it work. My 3-year-old's pretty good at entertaining himself, but the 1-year-old isn't quite old enough to play with the 3-year-old yet. He does nap in the afternoon, so that's nice. But we're still kind of figuring that out. But when I think about the number of hours that I put into making content over the summer, I truly could not do that now and still sleep. Because that was the amazing thing, was I was able to work 6 to 8 to 10 hours sometimes on content during the summer and still sleep like a regular, 6 to 8 hours, because sleep is a huge important thing to me. And I will not sacrifice my sleep. It's just a non-negotiable. But we're going to figure it out. I have childcare for the 1-year-old 1 day a week for a few hours in the morning. So I'm hoping I can take better advantage of that and get a lot done during that time. And we'll just see. We're just figuring it out 1 week at a time, figuring out how it's going. And then Steven, like we mentioned in the last, when he was on with me, he started his own company. I'm not sure if I actually said that he started a company called Benchmark Body Metrics, and they do DEXA scans, metabolic testing, and oh my gosh, I just blanked. VO2 max testing. So it's a lot of just data kind of helping you. The premise of the company, well, I don't know. He might say something different than me, but I'll tell you my take, because, I like it. My take is their focus is helping you build confidence in what your body can do. There are a lot of programs or options for you to get more confident in how your body looks aesthetically, but the focus of Benchmark is more on the competency of your body and being able to see the progress that your body is making in what it can physically do rather than the way that it physically looks. So it's been really fun to see him dive headfirst into the entrepreneurship world and just go for it. And it's super fun. So okay, I think that wraps us up for this week. I hopefully will be here again soon. And thanks for listening, as always. End rant.